Okay, welcome back, guys. My name is Ajay, and today I am going to answer one of your the queries which you have mentioned on the comment on my last video. So this is going to be how we can actually go and import the pictures of your project or the pictures of your employees. I do not know that, but the idea is that in Excel, let me show you. Now suppose you see that here I have got the employee IDs. So you can put here whatever you want as per your project, right? Now if you see, the moment I double click here on these cells, you see in the B column, I'm going and selecting the cell, the right cell, and I'm trying to double click here. And when I double click here, the picture gets imported here, of course, from your folder. So this is a requirement. And if I do not need the picture, I go and double click now on that very picture in a cell actually, and the picture is going to be removed. So how we can achieve this in Excel using Excel VBA? Let us start this. So it's very simple. First of all, you need to, the very first requirement is that you need to first of all go and collect your all the files in your folder, or the pictures basically. Now you see that I have got here all the pictures. These are all my actually the pictures, right? See, let me show you. These are the just thumbnails, right? So I have got all these thumbnails in one of my folder, right? Now these can be hundreds, these can be 200, 300, I do not know that, right? So the thing is that what we basically want to do is, first of all, we want to go and import these the pictures path, right? The path. So this is right now, you can see this is my basically the folder. This is where I have got all these on my desktop under the folder called thumbnail. Okay, now what is the path of this file? So for that, first of all, we will create a simple macro. Okay, and for that we will go and use the scripting library, right? The scripting library, the file system object class, because that is a class we use to whenever we deal with the files in the folders. So let me show you. So the first thing which you have to do is you have to go in the tools, and you have to go and click on the reference, and here you need to go and activate this particular file, Microsoft Scripting Runtime, because I have already activated this. I have already clicked here, so this is showing on the top. But in your case, this is going to be like somewhere here alphabetically. These are all sorted, so just press N and see that where is that library. If you have a Excel installed in your system, Office installed in your system, you will see this library. Okay, you will see this library. So the why we want this library, because this library actually is gives us the classes which you can always use for the files and the folders. For example, if you go to your object browser, I'll show you. See that here the library is activated because of that tool reference, right? So when you click on the scripting, these are all the classes which we can use from this library, right? So any programming language, the concept is very simple, that you need to know that which library offers which class or how many classes, and each of the class refers to an object can be anything like worksheet, workbook, Excel cells, Excel, the charts and the pivots, Excel ribbon, everything is considered as an object in the Excel. So if I have to work with the sheets, I should know which class is allocated for that particular worksheet by Microsoft, right? So we should know that if I have to go and deal with the drives, folders, the files, this is what exactly the library I want, and these are all the classes. Okay, I'll not obviously go into the detail, but this is the whole idea of the programming. So the first thing is that you need to basically go and first import the files. So this is where I will import the files, the file path actually, right? Import the file paths. Okay, so how do we begin with this? First of all, we can create our object, which is file system object, set fso equals to new file system object. This is how you create the object. Now fso is an object. It is my object, but it refers to a class which is called file system object class. Now this class is a Microsoft class. Microsoft has defined it. So if Microsoft say that through this class I can fly a kite, I can ride a bike, I can drive a car, I can run at the speed of 100 kilometers per hour. So that means I can do all those activities. I can perform all those things, but not anything which I actually, which is not in the class, but I want it to be done. No, right? Because this is a inbuilt predefined class. So file system object, this is how we write it. Okay, this is how we define it, because you see, the moment I start writing dot, this is where I get all the different the methods which I will be using. Now I want the folder. So for the folder, which is my folder, so that folder you have to go and give it here. Okay, you have to go and give it here. But before we define the folder, I mean it, because we have to go and allocate an object for this. So I'm going to simply say that this is going to be my folder, and now here we will simply write set flo equals to fso.GetFolder, and this is where now we will go and pick that the path. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that path. I have the path here. Just let me copy this, and let's go back to the VB code. So you see, this is where I will go and put the path. Clear? This is my path. I do not know how many images I have here, but this is my folder. So you have defined the folder, and remember that for this folder you are actually using FSO, file system object class. Okay, so in a way we can say object actually here acts like a class. So then we will define the file, because we want all the files from that folder. So we will go and use the collection loop here. Collection loop again are the inbuilt loops which Microsoft has created. Now why we use the collection loop? Because sometimes when we want to deal with the number of objects, but they all have the same class, they all are of same type. Like for example, in our folder, if I show you, all these images are different, but their path is same, and they are all actually are PNG. I mean they are under the file, they are under the folder, right? Now I want to target all these. I want to target all these irrespective of their name, because the common thing is that they are all stored under a folder, right? So I want to go and pick them, but how? So we will say these are all the files. I know these are the images, but we will consider them as file. It can be an Excel file, it can be a MS Word file, anything, but it cannot be a folder, a file, right? So we will say that, see, whatever the files you have here, just go and pick them. I want to see their path. Now why I want to see the path? Well, I'll just explain you that. So the point is that here you will go and run the collection loop for each file in my folder, and my folder actually is this folder. So here we will simply go and say, okay, so I want to start with the row, and the column actually is 2, and we will go and write here file.path, and then we will go and start incrementing the rows, because once you are here, for example, once you are here, and in this particular the row, now this row actually is 2, right? So once you have the path here, then obviously you will go for the next row. So you will go for the the third row, and you will go for the fourth row. So the point is that down the line here, we will actually go and try to put all the paths here, all the paths, and then those paths obviously should match with their employee ID. Now that is your homework. I mean, you see that how you can do that manually or with some Excel formula. But my point is that here I'm just going to bring from the folder which I have here, that folder, I'm going to actually go and get all the files, all the files here. So in this folder we have the files, right? So this is where I have one file, this is I have two file, and the third file, and the fourth file. So all those actually should go here. We should get these basically here, isn't it? So I'm going to put all these here, and then this is how we will start going to see the path name. Once we see the path name, then I'll tell you actually what we have to do. Okay, so let me just quickly rub this off. So we will define here R somewhere. R stands for the row. Since I have only 9 or 10 images, I'll prefer the byte data type, and the R in the beginning will have a row number 2. Okay, row number 2, because we want to start from here, and then R should be incremented. So the moment I'm going to hit on this, we should be able to see all the paths. See, I have run the code, and now you can see here we have got all the path. Please check this, right? Let me just try to, so what I've done actually, I've changed the font of this just to, so that it should not be visible. You can also do the same thing. in case if you want, but for the demonstration perspective, let me just give the different fonts. So you see I've got here all the basically, these are the files, right? Now what you have to do is based on these the images, because these images can come in any way. Like for example, here I have 1,000, here I have 200. So I can always go and use the text extraction, Excel formulas, or maybe I can take the help of the Power Query. I mean, it's up to you. That's something I'll not get into that. But right now, because these are just few of the employee IDs, so I'm just going to, correct them. Rest all are correct, right? So once you have the path, now here comes the important part, right? So scripting is done. Now what is the next thing I want to do? The next thing is that what I have thought of, that if anybody wants to see the employee ID, this 1,000, right? He will go and double click here. Now you can create the double click on any cell, maybe on this cell, and you can hide this. It's up to you. Okay. So you see, the moment I double click here, that particular picture comes here. This is wonderful, right? Now how this is happening, this is what you need to learn. And the moment I double click here, this actually also removes. See, the thing is that first of all, when I double click here, I want a macro to run automatically, right? I don't want to create a button for this because this should look very natural. The moment user clicks double click, the macro fires. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to create an event. Okay, I have already created, let me show you. So you go to that particular sheet because you do not want to run this on any other sheet, right? If you do not know the events, please go and check the videos on this channel. See, basically what I've done, I've created this event called before double click, right? Before double click. So if, let me show you, suppose I create here a different sheet. Now let's go back to the how you can actually create it in case if you do not have any idea. You go in that sheet where you want this macro. Events are self-triggered macros. You give the condition on this worksheet. You can choose the condition from here. There are different the conditions which you can choose here. Activate before delete. So if you want to run any macro before delete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say before double click. So the moment you do that, this macro is already created. Okay, it's going to show up here. Let's delete this. Now under this particular thing, this is where now you have to do the planning, that what exactly you want. So if I just put the breakcode here just to show you, see, the moment I double click on this cell, this macro is going to fire, and then it's going to run everything which you have created inside this. Okay, if I remove this, user will not be able to see that the macro is firing, right? In the background it is going to run. So you have to choose which event you want. So we have selected the double click. Now on the double click, what is the plan? See, the plan is very simple. The first of all, in this range, if user clicks anywhere, the double click, the macro should go and put the picture here. It should pick the picture from the folder, right? And in the folder, what is the file name? Well, file name is already here. So that's why we're going to pick this, the path. Okay. At the same time, if the user clicks on the range from C2 to, this is the range, C2 to C10, right? So in this range, anywhere, in this range, if the user is going to click the double click, so what will happen that this particular macro will fire, another macro will fire, and it is going to remove the image, right? This is the plan. And if anywhere else the the user is going to click, well, we don't want to actually run the macro, right? So for example, if I double click here, there should be nothing, right? We don't need to run any macro. So how we have done it? Now see this, to save the time, the macro which I have created, it's very simple. Let's go to the sheet 1. Remember, this is created under the sheet 1. Okay. Now you see in this macro, what we are doing is, first of all, please define the two ranges. Please define the two ranges. So first of all, you see that I've defined one range as B1 to B10. I have given the object name as RNG. Then there is another one which is C1 to C10, right? So these are the two ranges. Now we need to see that in these two ranges, if the user has double clicked, something we need to perform. Otherwise, we don't need to perform anything, isn't it? right? So when this macro gets created by VBA, when you select the before double click, you see we have here the target, which has a class called range. Now target is nothing, but it's actually a cell where you're going to double click because this is a before double click event. If I simply just select anything, the event will not fire. But if I double click here, you see this is going to fire. And the target, the cell, it's, the VBA will pick that immediately for you. See that, right? So this is where the students get confused that what is this? What are these parameters? What is this written here? Basically, these are all the variables, objects, right? So target is nothing, but it is a one where you have double click because this event is double, right? So if you see here, the value is picked up, and this is what we need. Now I've already defined the ranges. Now here we are using a function called intersect. What is the intersect? Intersect means that obviously, there is a meeting point, right? There is a meeting point, there's a connection, there is a touch happening between two bodies, right? So for example, what we are saying now, application.intersect, you need to first of all define the range, that in which range you want to ask the VBA if my target actually is intersecting, it's crossing basically, right? Is it a part of that? So range we have already defined, which is B1 to B10. Now in this case, you know that the target actually is definitely is intersecting the range B1 to B10 because I had clicked on the B2 cell, right? And the B2 actually falls under the category called B1 to B10. Ideally, this should be actually B2, right? And this should be C2 because these are the headers. So I don't want that anything happens here when you click here on the B1. So please go and change it. I'll also edit it. So now here we are saying is intersection is nothing or something. This is how you write. Well, if it is nothing, then what will happen? It will further go and check the another thing. Right now, intersection is something. We have got something from here. So the moment I, double click here, if I press F8, you see that this is immediately going to go in the else mode. And now in the else mode, because right now what happened, it says is nothing, remember, but the intersection is there. So that's why we will go in this else condition. And this is where what I've said, offset me from the target, offset me because I don't want to keep the cursor here. So it's going to pick it is going to pick the another cell, which is 0, 1. This works like offset, you see it has selected that, and this is the important line. On that particular line, which now I have selected, because this is where I want to import the picture, you will simply go and say Target.InsertPictureInCell. This is a cell feature, right? Target.InsertPictureInCell, and which picture you want to insert, and that we have already got from the Target.Value, right? Remember, target is nothing, it's a cell, right? Because this is an event which is actually before double click. So target, if I say target.path, I will see the path. If I say target.address, I will see B2 because I've double clicked on the B2. If I say what is a value, that is where it's going to show me the value. Now, do you understand the importance of this, right? So this is where on your current cell, which you have selected here, that becomes the target, the picture will be inserted, and you see the picture is inserted. So simple. I hope you got the point. Now, if I double click here, for example, if I double click here on this cell, which is called C2, now what will happen? You will get the target as C2, right? Isn't it? So now if you see your target, what is your target? Your target is empty actually, because actually in the target there's nothing. So right now, if you pay attention, the range is B1 to B10. Is your target is intersecting the range B1 to B10? It means that is it a part of it? No, because you have clicked on the C2, right? So this condition will say yes, it's nothing. If it is nothing, then the code now this times go inside the F. And this is where now we are again now going to see, okay, so what about the range 2, which is C2 to C10? Okay, it's not C1, C2 to C10. Is the target falling in this range? This is how you write. Yes. So the point is that here we have again written is nothing, but there is something. There is a connection now. It's a part of it. So what will happen? It will go actually in the else mode, because this code we have written that if there's nothing, then you go and execute this. Otherwise, you will go in the else of this if. Are you getting the point, right? So this this particular area, this particular area, this is, see that this is a if, right? This is a if. Okay. This is a if, and this else belongs to this if. So right now in this condition it says yes, intersection is there. Okay, so what we will do, we will simply go and say, okay, we don't need the target value. I mean, we want to remove the value, so you can see the picture has gone. And then what I'm doing is I'm just moving that by one row, so the cursor comes here, and immediately we don't need to run the macro, and the macro fires. This is such a simple thing. So if the user clicks anywhere else, double click, for example, I have clicked on the C2. Now if you click on the C2, see what will happen. There's no intersection, right? There's no intersection because your target is C2, right? So what will happen? The code goes inside. Again, it will check, are you nothing or something, right? Intersection is there, intersection is not there. So you see this time it says, yes, there's no intersection with this range. So eventually we don't want to do anything now. We just move by one column, okay, and exit the sub from there. Are you getting the idea? Right? So this is what we need, right? This is what we need. So this is how the things happens, right? Now obviously I don't want to show this to the user. So what I've done, actually, I've just, I want to create the same font. So I just said, okay, this is how it is. Well, you can choose, I think, some light font. Yeah, like this, right? And then of course, I mean, I can just go and pick this. I mean, I can go and get this, decrease the width as well. See, now the code is working flawlessly. Are you getting the point, right? See this. So the thing is that here what we have done is that you said that uh, in this particular range, first of all, I will go and check if the double click which is happening, if that particular double click is coming, using the application.intersect point. Okay, let me just take the snapshot of this. I'll explain you now. Let's have this. Yeah, so let me take the snapshot here. This is what exactly is the code, isn't it? Yeah, see this now, right? So in this now particular example, this particular range, this actually belongs to this range, right? And this range C1 to C10, C2 to C10, this actually particular range belongs to this one, this area, right? So let's say I have double clicked here, right? Now this actually goes here in your target, right? And range you have already defined, which is this range, right? Which is this range. So here the intersection happens, right? So if the intersection happens, the code actually goes here in the else, and then it immediately goes in the that insert picture, right? Because this is nothing. Are you getting the point, right? Now similarly, if let's say I double click here, now when you double click here, you go here, your target is now this time is this cell, which is what, which is actually C2. Now C2 is in this intersection, in this line, C2 is nothing because C2 is not a part of this range B1 to B10. So then what happens, the condition satisfies, and then this particular line gets executed. The code comes here, and here if you see, this is actually a range 2. Now range 2, it's C1 to C10, which is actually this range, right? Now in this range, this target, this is going to further, we are going to check. And this time what will happen, it is something because target is a part of it. So this is where we will see that the target actually is something. So the code will go in the else area because it has found its intersection, and that is where we will say that we actually want to go and put the target code as black. Okay, we want to put the target code as black. Sorry for my drawing, but I'm just not so used to it.